Northern Hemisphere. Hopefully you're enjoying some beautiful fall color. I know I am. These Dawn Redwoods, man, I just love them. I wanted to shoot a fall update video, make sure I give you some updates on existing trees that I've shown you before, maybe a new project or two, and then of course show you the display of fall foliage that these deciduous trees are showing up with this fall. It's a little past peak normally mid-November the trees are all bare. End of October is normally the target here in Lower Michigan for beautiful fall color. But this year we had a really warm fall, no complaints there, so it was delayed a little bit, and here we are, pretty much at peak, I would say. So let's start off here with the Dawn Redwood Forest, or Forest 2B. You may have seen before the small 5-tree forest that I got from Brussels Bonsai as kind of a starter, maybe 3-4 years ago. And I mentioned I needed to repot them and that they'd go into a future forest someday. Well, here is some progress. Those 5 are included here along with 3 others, so 8 total trees in here. Just some 2x4s in a grow tray that I just made makeshift. I'll show you some photos of this spring when I did the repotting on these trees. And they all grew really well. I didn't prune them at all, took off like crazy. Roots are popping through my little grow tray here. Plan for these guys is to let them grow one more season in this grow tray. And then I'm going to combine them in 2023 spring, do the repot, and put it into the final forest planting. I've got about 25-30 baby Dawn Redwoods that I rooted this year, got to germinate. I use about half of those trees, or a little more, for root grafting that I'll talk about later. And then the rest I'm going to combine with these thicker trees into the final Dawn Redwood Forest planting. Obviously you want a variation of sizes, as I've mentioned before. I've got 1/2 inch up to 1 inch trunk thickness in here, and then all those little babies that I'll let grow out next year, and then final repotting and combination in 2023. So that is the plan for these Dawn Redwoods. I just love this beautiful orange fall color, and they'll start dropping these needles soon, but in the meantime, I can enjoy them. Alright, had to switch over to the hoodie because it's getting chilly with that sun going down. On to bigger and better as far as Dawn Redwoods go. This is the beast. You've seen it many times. It grew great this year. It's up top above the camera frame here, just really, really tall. But it did feel like one step forward and one step back with this tree a little bit this year. The grafts that I put in place, first off, this apex here, future apex, looks like it might have taken, but I'm going to be chopping everything above my hand next spring. So it'll be quite a change of scenery when you see this tree next. More importantly though, the other graft looks like it took for sure, and that's because the exit wound part is actually thicker than the entry of the branch into the trunk of the tree. It means that the graft probably took. Find out in spring, of course, but with the move over to the right-hand side, I needed a defining branch to come off to the left-hand side, and I'm really excited that that one looks like it took. That'll help me complete the composition of this tree long-term. So hey, steps forward in that regard, but the step backwards that I was talking about is this big old root that died back. This is a entirely dead section, all this cut paste that you see here. You know, when I bought the tree, the base looked fine, no issues, no dead areas. But when they dug this out of the ground and chopped those big roots, they must have killed that one. And so it deteriorated over the last couple of years and eventually was just bare deadwood here earlier in the season. Can't remember if I showed that or not. So it kind of brought me to a decision point. Option 1 would be, let's finish the shari. Let's carve this all out the rest of the way down the trunk and expand it down to the soil level. Love to hear your feedback on whether or not you would do that. But I went with option 2 because, hey, I can always go in and carve the rest of this shari, dead area of the trunk, all the way down to the soil level. I can't undo it. So what I'm going to try and do is get this callus on both sides of this root to grow over and heal over the top of the root long term, create hopefully some bulging down there, and retain that nice flare that we had off to the left-hand side for that root base. So I went back in and re-scored or re-wounded all of the live tissue on either side of this dead root, and I'm hoping that over time that callus rolls over and eventually will cover this dead area. So that's the idea with this one. We'll see whether or not it happens. It may take 3 to 4 years, but I'm going to keep an eye on that. I've got to keep it dry. If it starts to deteriorate, it doesn't have that hard surface to be able to roll over and close up that wound. And if I have to resort to putting epoxy in there, carving it out a little bit, putting some hardened epoxy in to give it a hard surface to roll over, I will do that. because I love this flare and the potential of getting this to roll over the top of it. The Nabari is not perfect elsewhere. As I've mentioned in the past, it's kind of like a telephone pole going straight into the ground. We need some more spread on that root base. So I mentioned my handy dandy little baby Dawn Redwood seedlings. Those are grown for a reason, and that's for root grafting for this tree in spring. I will be trying out root grafting on this tree. I'll bring you some footage on that. Selecting certain spots, definitely on each side of this dead root to expand that and help that callus out even more. And in the right hand side over here to get some more root spread as well. Just trying to improve the Nabari on this tree. Again, playing the long game. I still like where it's headed, though it may be 4 to 5 years before it's in a bonsai pot. I think you'll see quite a transformation when we make that apex cut in the spring and start to see what I'm looking at as far as the design goes on this tree. Yes, one of the collected larch, looking good, starting to put on some nice yellow fall color. Still got a little green on there. This thing grew great this year, roots through the bottom of the pot, happy times, and I am going to turn this into a raft. I've got a bunch of seedling larch that I hatched this year, and I'm going to do some grafting, some root grafting. If you work with me and I tilt it, basically we're going to try and take one of these sections, probably this upper section up here. I'm going to graft a tree through, so if the foliage is going up and the roots are coming down here, and create this on its side, wire all these up so that they're into a raft style. And then eventually, once that graft takes, I will separate right here and I'll have an interesting looking raft bonsai. I may even do it in 2 different sections because there are some funky moves in here and create 2 rafts, I don't know. And then I also am going to graft a branch into place down here so that I can retain this nice base and make an informal upright. Now keep in mind I'll have to suspend that tree in the air with a little pot right here for the roots to grow and for it to graft through. So that's going to be highly technical and a riot to try. So feel free to call me insane, but I think when you see what I'm going to try and do with this next spring, hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. Oh man, isn't that a beautiful sight, huh? A lot of color variation that you're looking at right now. Oranges, reds over here. We've got the green still hanging on, some yellow. Beautiful Japanese maple seedlings. And I went a little bit nuts with seedlings this year. The larch, the Dawn Redwood. I planted a ton of pines. And I went too far. I have to admit it. Basically, I'm watching these for characteristics. So if I have really short internodes or I have interesting leaf shapes, those are trees that I want to hang on to. I'm trying to pick about the best 10% that I think are the most interesting. What I do is I just wrap a little wire loosely around the base, so I know I want to hang on to those. The rest I'll either cull and get rid of, or maybe sell some, or throw into random forests. Got another batch of them right here, probably 100 in that big tray, and then beautiful display of red right now. With all of these are green leaf Japanese maples that have now turned their beautiful fall oranges and reds. Just loving it, absolutely. So same concept, pick the best maybe 10% and use them for the future and growing on into larger pots and observing their behavior to see if there's anything really cool that I want to preserve. So one last seedling project. Told you I went nuts. Ginkgo, gorgeous, yellow hues. Love watching these grow. Got about 7 to pop from a batch of 10 seeds. May put these into a forest. I've got 2 others that are slightly larger. I saw Blue Sky Bonsai. If you haven't looked him up, really good videos. He made a beautiful Ginkgo biloba forest in a recent video, and I really might take some inspiration from that and use these to create a forest. That'll be the last seedling project I'll show you for today. Why not wrap it up with the American Beech, Vagas Grandifolia, collected out of the woods this spring. Absolutely wonderful reaction to the collection. Added a bunch of back buds and put on a ton of foliage, as you see here, turning that lovely bronze and yellow color for fall. It will retain those leaves if you don't pluck them off yourself, which I probably will do because I need to debate what kind of style I'm going to go with for this tree. So if you have any ideas, please weigh in the comments. you know, I'm thinking about maybe a broom style. I got a ton of back buds at the actual chop site, maybe 8. So those could be really, really important if I go with a broom style from that chop. Or I go with some more movement and chop back farther to an existing bud. We shall see. But I hope you guys like this little fall update video. Feel free to comment on what you saw, what you do differently. Like and subscribe, because there's definitely more to come. We will talk next time.